Hello, arty peoples, and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy Klein, and I am your host this evening, and today is all about organization. All the things I struggle with. I don't know about you, but I do. Now, before we officially get into the episode, I do want to do a quick reminder that Art of the Carolinas is officially happening, and I am very excited about this. If you are not familiar with what Art of the Carolinas is, it is a giant trade show where we, here in Raleigh, it is at the, Katie?
Hilton North Raleigh Midtown.
Hilton North Raleigh Midtown. That Hilton specifically. We take the ballroom of that and turn it into a giant trade show where there are massive discounts. You can on hand try out art supplies before you buy them. There are demonstration artists. There are workshops. I'm even teaching some workshops, and I'm very excited, and I hope to get to see some of you guys there taking my classes. Now, the actual trade show goes from November 12th through the 14th, so it is that whole weekend. And then the workshops actually start the Thursday before, which is the 11th, and that also goes through the weekend. So make sure you go to artofthecarolinas.com and check that out. And if you are interested in going, make sure you look into booking your hotel rooms and your classes now because they sell out fast. I believe the Hilton is already sold out. Could be wrong. I believe it is, though, for that specific chunk of the Hilton. So our hotels are getting kind of full, so make sure you check it out now, not later.
There are some additional hotels on the website.
Yes, there are definitely hotels on the website as alternatives besides just the actual Hilton that we are hosting the trade show in. So they're not too far, but if you are interested in coming and you are not anywhere near us and you'd have to stay in a hotel, make sure to look into it now. Other quick thing before we officially start. Last week I had Jeff Olson on, and he did a wonderful demo about the Cobra oils, the water-soluble oils, and he also mixed in some of the Rembrandt oils into that whole demonstration. And in the middle of his show, he always gives away a little bit of a goodie bag. So we officially drew names, and the winner of that freebie, which is a set of Cobra oils and a set of Rembrandt oils, is Debbie Book. So Debbie Book, I will be reaching out and getting in touch with you, and I'll get your information and we'll get all that sent over to you. So congratulations. I hope you're excited. I am a little jealous, but it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see the artwork you do with that. So today's episode is JL207. So it is, I believe, written down here in the corner of the screen in case you forget. But if you ever want to see any of the things that I am going over, make sure to go to the website jerrysartarama.com, and in the search bar, type in the code JL207, and the teacher's cart should come up with all the things that I'm going to be talking about. So if you are getting ready to go back to school and you want to keep your studio organized, or if you are a working professional artist, or if you're a hobbyist and you're trying to keep little fingers away from all of your art supplies or things like that, and you need to keep them organized and you need to keep them stored, I'm going to give you some solutions today, hopefully, that is really, really awesome to have just on hand. So let's jump into it. First things first, I want to talk about these over here. Now I'm going to pull some of them over because I just have a lot of stuff on my desk. So this right here is called the Mezzo Rack. We have 3 different styles. This one right here is the corner rack, where the little holes on the bottom here hold the smaller tubes, and then we have larger ones up here that will actually hold chunky, big tubes of paint. Now, the holes up here at the top, I'm going to tilt that so you guys can see, will actually hold your brushes, just like you can see here. You can also hold pens and stuff in there. I actually tested this out earlier. The smaller hole holds a Faber-Castell pen really well. So even if you don't use them all for brushes, you can have a couple pens and things. But these right here are really, really awesome to have on your desk and on your table if you are, like, all your supplies that you're using currently. That's how I kind of like to look at this. This isn't like long-term storage because you really don't want to really store your brushes upright like this. Just long term if you're not using them, but if you're using them and you need to, grab and go, these are really great. Same thing with the tubes of paint that you use all the time, like if you are an acrylic artist. These are all acrylics in here, but this is the third one. So there's your corner rack. Let me move that out of the way. Toss that back over there. And then we have two of these straight racks. So this one right here also has the brushes, the brush holes at the top. It has the larger tube holder and then the smaller tube holder as well. Now, this is oil, this is acrylic. I mean, they hold all different size tubes. And the really cool thing is at the very bottom of each of these huge ovals is a, try to tilt this without having everything slide out. I hope you can see that. There is actually a slit in the bottom holder of that actually fits just the edge of your tube, so it actually will sit and not shake around in there or slide out. That's actually a really, really nice thing because if I'm moving this around my desk, I don't want these flying out, which is frustrating. The other thing though, is this last one, is it has all of the tube holders. So for instance, this is filled with all the Turner acrylic gouache. So if I'm trying to collect a set of the pastels, which is what I actually have in here, and then I have my black and my white, even though this is a smaller tube holder, I actually did get the larger tube stuck in there. So I mean, it's actually quite versatile. I even have a palette knife stuck in there. You know, you can actually use this for quite a lot of things. Now the cool thing is even with these tiny smaller tubes of Turner acrylic gouache, or if you use watercolors, you can actually double down because like this is the same color and I can stick 2 tubes of paint in there. It's not, you know, the prettiest as like having it all nice and displayed like this, but you know, if you're just picking and going with your art supplies, this is a really nice way to have them on hand, have them organized, and have them displayed out for you so you don't have to guess where everything is. So that is the mezzo racks. Let me get those out of the way. Now, for more long-term storage, and actually, you know what, before I go over that, let's go over these. Because maybe you aren't a painter. Maybe you don't specifically go for paints and brushes and acrylics, oils, watercolors, anything like that. Maybe you're more of an illustrator, somebody who does anime. You're going to have a lot of pens, a lot of microns, or even the accurate technical pen, which is really great because it's waterproof. Things like that, you know, Faber-Castell, all of those will fit right into this, both of these. It will also hold short handle brushes. So if you do watercolors and you use more of the short handle brushes, this is a really nice way to hang on to them and have them kind of displayed. Again, for brushes, it's more of like a short-term storage because you don't want to really store them upright just because the water will drip down into the ferrule and then that kind of messes with your brushes. But this right here is, I believe, the Creative Mark. Sorry, there's a lot of stuff, so I want to just double check. Yes, this is the Creative Mark Art and Hobby Supply Organizer Crate, where this is the Creative Mark Brush Crate. I just want to make sure I got those right. Because this right here has 96 slots, so you have 96 holes. I honestly did not count this one, and it does not specify. But this comes in white or black. This one comes in only the gray, but it's nice for all, like kind of a catch-all on my desk. This is something that I use all the time. I hold my scissors. I always lose my, you know, my little hobby knife. It's a nice way to store it. They also hold the Copic markers. This one does. This one's a little bit too small for the Copic. But if you are a marker artist and you want to have your colors that you use all the time, or your pens all nice and displayed, colored pencils, this is a really nice way of having that displayed as well. So those are really nice to have on your desk. Again, this is like a quick organization. So for these guys, this is more of, I want to say long-term storage because it depends on how you use it, but we have 2 different storage chest brands here. This is the Creative Mark and this is the HG Concepts. The Creative Mark here, it comes in a 3-drawer or 4-drawer, 3-drawer or 4-drawer. That's not easy to say. But these are specifically meant for pastels. Now, not that you have to use these for pastels. If you want to use them for your short handle brushes or your watercolor tubes, you know, small things like that. These are really, really great. They're not huge depth with the drawers, so just keep that in mind. Colored pencils, maybe you want to, you know, shove that in there. I believe, so I just tested this. Yep, these come out. I kind of shoved this one back in, and there it goes. I popped it back in. If you want to, you can also remove the foam and have a little bit more of a depth. But the foam in there is really nice if you are a pastel artist, because that will kind of buffer your pastels and make sure that they don't, you know, rock around in there and get messy. Yes, did we have a question?
We do have a question. You mentioned the markers in the standing.
Yes.
But we're having some questions about how markers should be stored. Deborah was under the impression they should be stored
Flat.
flat.
Yes. That's the one thing. If you are like, if you're grabbing and going with a marker that you're using all of the time, and it's just one of those things where you just want to like pop it in there and then, you know, I would use this more for the artwork that you're currently working on. I wouldn't store your markers in here long term. Does that make sense? So if you want to store your markers, I would say you do need to store them flat, especially if they are dual tipped, just because that keeps your ink nice and level and distributed between the two ends. Even if it's not dual tipped though, I believe that's a nice way of kind of keeping the ink level. But this is just a nice way of keeping them organized on your desk as you go. So like if you've ever done marker art and you have them kind of just spread out, and then that spread just kind of gets bigger and bigger. This is the way I keep them kind of in one spot without having them spread too far. Because for whatever reason, this is also the plastic that my dog really likes to chew. And I try to make sure that my dog does not get any of my markers or pens, but just something about marker plastic, she just loves to chew it. And then she'll end up destroying all of my markers, and I have to worry about whether or not she just poisoned herself, and that's just not fun. So this is how I kind of keep them tucked away and away from her, more or less, and kind of keep my desk organized. Hope that answers that question. Do we have any more before I move on? Okay. So that is, for this one, you got the three drawer option. I believe, I didn't actually check, but I believe all the drawers are the same. Yes, they are. All the drawers are exactly the same with the dividers and the foam. With that, I would put the drawers back in, but I cannot do that sideways. All right, let me move this out of the way so I can grab.
I will say a lot of people, especially pastel artists and colored pencil artists, with those like that the drawers come completely out. So when you are using them, you can
Yes.
pull all your trays out. And
That
put
is a
them
very
in front
good
of
point. Katie was just saying, a lot of pastel artists like to grab your drawers and go to your art, to your table, to your workspace. This is really nice if you have these on your shelves. That way you can keep your supplies organized, and then you can fully pull them out and then go back to your artwork that way.
It's also a great way to have separate palettes
Yes.
stored.
You can keep
and
all
ready.
your reds in one area, all your blues in one area, or if you have a very specific palette for landscapes or one for portraits, that is a really nice way of kind of keeping them divided, for sure. Now, for this one, this is the HG concepts. Again, just like the Creative Mark, they are stackable. And I personally, not gonna lie, I kind of want just an entire wall of these. I want a full wall just of these everywhere. Katie, can we make that happen? But these have, again, the 3 drawer and the 4 drawer option. So these are a little different. They do have some of different drawers where there are dividers. This second one is obviously much thicker than the first one. Well, I won't say much thicker. It is thicker, but it's not massively thicker. And then this third drawer is just like the second. This again is really great for storing brushes if I don't throw them. So long handle brushes fit in there really nice. I know you can't actually see that because it's tilted, but there you go. Long handle brushes will actually fit in there really nicely. Again, you can use this for colored pencils, your markers. You can use this for your acrylics if you want to, you know, because the drawers are nice and deep. You can fit quite a few tubes in there, and it closes really nice. You know, and that was just the normal size golden. I'm sure it would even fit the larger one. Yep, the larger tubes will fit in there too. But this is a nice way of kind of keeping, you know, everything organized.
They were specifically made to hold the larger tubes of
Yes.
oil paint.
Yes, they were made specifically to get those big ones, the big tubes of paint in there, because I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, what am I going to do with all these tubes of paint? And they are everywhere in my house. Now the 4-drawer option, all the drawers I believe are the same depth. The first 2 are empty with the foam in there, and then the bottom 2, yes, they are the same as well, but they have the dividers with the foam. Again, really nice for like pastels. You can pull the whole drawer out and then go on to work on your artwork. You can also keep your watercolor tubes in here really nicely. You know, just kind of sky's the limit on storing all of your items. Now I believe, I'm sorry, well, I'm gonna have to pop over here, so we're gonna have to do some camera magic. So if you would like to come with me, please come on over. Ta-da! So not only do we have the smaller storage options, I wanted to show you some other options for your art supplies, as far as keeping your studio organized and keeping them kind of, it's a working studio. We're not always working at a table. We can maybe be working at an easel. What do you do with your art supplies once you're done with or what do you do with your paintings once they're done? So I wanted to give you a couple of options for this as well. So this right here is a tabouret, in case you are not familiar with a tabouret. This one's really nice. It has 3 drawers that pull out, and they have divided areas that will kind of keep all your art supplies stored and organized. And this one is so deep that I can even put in brush washing basin box. So this is the same size as the actual brush washer. I can put that in there and close it. So if I am working with oil paints, that is one of those things where I can just put it in my drawer. I don't have it on the table where like a cat would knock it off. Or my kids can't get to it, kind of a thing. This is a nice little contained thing. The other thing that it can do is that this pulls out, and then you can actually expand your workspace, which is really, really awesome. This also has a little area where your palette can slide in. If you work with a paper palette or even a glass palette, it should be able to fit right in there. And then you can have all your, brushes and your brush washer and everything over here. This is something that I use a lot, especially if I'm in kind of like a tight space, or say if you're in like an apartment and you have limited space anyway. It kind of, tucks away and it rolls really easily, as long as you don't knock that out. A couple of other open storage areas where if you need to kind of just toss in like your easy wipers, you can take out the drawers and be able to shove that in there and then have that as like another working storage area. So I'm just gonna shove that off there. So this right here is kind of like a tabouret on steroids. But before we get to that, let's talk about this. So this is again more of like a drying rack, where it's like a transformer of drying racks, and that's hard to explain. I have to just show you. So not only can you adjust, because this right here is a kind of an adjusting kind of lock, so I can expand this and have it be a little bit wider, and this will lock it in place. I can also bring it more together and have it lock in place. But the way that this is a transformer is that I can also hang it on my wall. So now I can also have a drying rack that is attached to my wall. So I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to have to move this around my office or my studio, wherever it may be. And the other really cool thing, the reason why it's a little moving on me is because I have it loosey-goosey. Because if you take these bolts out top, which, sorry, it's going to take me a minute to, while I'm doing this and adjusting this, do you have any questions?
How long are the rack poles?
Oh, that is
The
a good
arms?
question. I did not look that up. I think it's like 12 inches. I want to say it's 12 inches.
MJ Pete says
all
it
the
works
same.
great on a door.
Yes, absolutely. So, this right here is the reason why I absolutely love this, right? I'm going to kind of tighten it up a little bit. There's just a wing nut at the top here. So I'm just taking the wing nut off, moving that bolt. There's also a washer. And then there are 3 different holes on each side, right? Let me tighten this back up. So now it is more of a triangle, right? So I can put smaller canvases on top, larger at the bottom. Again, I can also have it on my wall. And the really cool thing is that these will also come down and kind of brace it if you end up having it something like that.
And it also folds in half, right?
It does, yes. So it does fold in half. Sorry, I did just tighten it. So that's where this locking mechanism comes in play. It just has 2 pegs, and it actually helps if I put that in there. Sorry, I'm trying to hold it because it doesn't want to stay because I tightened that one bottom down here. So it wants to kind of naturally pop open. So if you do fold it like this, these magnet right back up, the little bracers. And then now, if I were to have this on the outer things, it would lean together and be nice and sturdy, which is great for drying racks. I definitely like to have a multitude of drying racks in my studio because wet paintings, where do you put them, you know?
Do you have a rough idea how large of a panel or canvas that will hold?
Will's about to measure it for me. Amanda's gonna look it up.
It
And Will's gonna
says,
check.
Suggested panel size while the ladder is positioned upright is the smallest is 4x4, the largest is 12x16. But if it's laid flat on the table or hanging on the wall, the smallest is 4x6, and the largest is either 12x16 if it's hanging or 18x24 if it's laid flat.
There we go. I hope you all heard that because that is a lot of numbers and I'm not gonna be able to repeat that. But, so that is the drying rack. There are, again, just remember there are other drying racks out there. This is not the end all be all. I just wanted to show you a couple different things just so you kind of understand that if you are struggling of like, where do I put this wet oil painting, there are options for you to stay not only organized, but kind of keep them safe and out of the harm's way, because then you don't want people touching your artwork. How frustrating is it when somebody walks up and goes, ooh, just because it's on your easel still and they assume it's dry. It's happened so many times. Okay, so this right here is the Todd Reavers workstation. And this is my chunky, beefy workstation, and I love this thing so much, so much. So this right here, not only does it have storage underneath, also comes with a brush holder. But this storage is quite a lot of storage, which is great for, especially if you're an oil painter, you have a lot of mediums, or if you have different tubes of paint that you want to keep on hand. Now I will show you this in a minute before I get to that. But it has a pull-out drawer, and I was looking for this canvas. Clearly, this is actually my workstation. Can you tell? I've been looking everywhere for this. Sorry. I'm going to put that back in there. But it has a nice drawer for if you want like your smaller tube of paint in there. That is a really nice way to have brushes as well. But if you have this open, because that literally just pulls up and slides down, your brush rack clips right here. You have a smaller kind of storage area here for your mediums and various things you need on hand. Your brushes, you can have your palette. You have the option for a paper towel holder over here, or if you're like me and you actually use the easy wipers, I usually drape quite a few easy wipers over here just to kind of hold on to it. And then if that wasn't enough, it has a trash can. It has a trash can, and I am actually pretty sure this is about the equivalent of like a 13-gallon trash can. So it's pretty big, and that's also why this drawer doesn't open, because that's actually the trash can area. But this is a really nice way of, if I'm working and I need to stop and kind of close up my station, there will not be any dust all over everything. I can just kind of close it and go. And it's really nice to not have to be able to, kind of clean up every single time. Although this is the other reason why I also work with a glass palette, is because I close it and then I forget about it and I come over and I have to scrape it and go. So that is the Todd Reaver's workstation. I'll shove that way. And then I also have the last tiny little thing here before I pull on something else that's nice and big and chunky. This right here is something that is really, really nice for a working studio. This is a canvas, kind of a canvas rack. You can use it as a drying rack, but the really nice thing for this is your prints. If you are in a working studio and you have multiple prints of your work, and it's for sale, and you have a show like every first Friday, because I know a lot of galleries have that if you were in like a working kind of studio thing. This is a really nice way of having those prints just on display all the time. It's also storage, and then, this is the medium size, by the way. There are two other sizes, I believe, large and small. I don't think there's an extra large. I think this is just the medium. There's the large and small. So this is, by the way, for reference, I am short. I'm 5'3". It's coming up to my hip. So this is small child sized. It's not tiny, but it will hold quite a lot of your prints. And then the really cool thing is that it has these Velcro option here. So I can now keep my prints in there, grab this, and then go to a trade show. So I am ready to just go and kind of travel around with my prints, and then they're also still stored and protected, which is really awesome. So I'm going to shove that off of there, and then I'm going to bring in, hopefully we can see all of this. It's a big one. I think we're just going to adjust it maybe to where we can see everything. Not only is it really nice to be able to kind of store all of your wet paintings and everything, canvas. Where do you put canvas? And the other thing is that you don't really want to store your canvas flat. Flat is not great for canvas, just because if you do, sorry, sorry, camera went a little rogue on us. Everybody please give Will a round of applause for him being awesome and moving the camera and moving all of this gigantic things around for me. Will is doing an amazing job. He deserves a round of applause. But you don't want to store your canvas more or less flat. The reason why is because if you have any canvas that are not the exact same size, you do run the risk of having that like a smaller canvas pushing down in the center of a canvas that is larger, or you can have the stretcher bars actually indent the canvas underneath it. So storing them flat and level like that is not really, really great. You do want to store them upright. The other reason why I love this thing is because if I need to just move it around, it actually moves quite nicely. But you can see, and this is actually what we use here in the studio, and I actually have some canvas. So this right here is a huge canvas, and it can, be stored down there. Sorry. Normally I have quite a few of these. If I have just one, I will usually put them in the end there so I can actually brace it up against this bar here if I need to. And then we usually like to keep our panels up top. So I have canvas panels and then stretch canvas down here. If you're somebody who works with oils or acrylics or kind of watercolors and kind of different mixed medias, and you have oil primed versus a universal acrylic primed, you can separate them that way and even label them if you need to. You can also have watercolor paper if it's in like blocks. That's a really nice way of doing that too. But this right here, for reference, is a 14 by 18, and it is just about the same exact width as the carp. So, see, catches it. It's really nice. That is, here, let me flip it around so you can see it, and it's not white on white. So there is the 14 by 18 canvas, and then this right here is hopefully labeled somewhere. It's blurred. Oh, it's a 30 by 40. This is a 30 by 40. That's almost my size. So 30 by 40, and as you can see, here, I'll kick it out that way so I can turn it. You still have a good amount of clearance here if you need to get something slightly larger, like a 36, or I'm sorry, like 40, 42. What are the normal canvas sizes? Even if you work custom, this can hold just slightly larger, but not too much. I think maybe 48 would definitely stick out. But you can also, if you need to, I don't know if that's going to happen. Hold on. This is where I make funny faces. You can also store it that way. So that way, it might be sticking out a little bit, but it's still going to be nice and stored, and it's not going to damage your canvases. So this is the Space Rover storage rack.
And it swivels so nicely.
Isn't
And
it?
it's got locks on the wheels.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes, it does have locks down here, and I literally just locked it. It does not take a whole lot of effort or pressure to lock or unlock. Just a little tap of your foot, and now it's locked.
Julie
No.
Julie on YouTube mentioned that it would also be really good for mat board storage.
Yes, mat board. Space Rover is literally storage for all the things. All of the panels and boards and everything. Anything that you would need to kind of have it stored upright like that you don't want to have damaged. This is a really nice way of doing that. So I believe that's it for this side. So come back over here for movie magic. And it's a whole new set. All right, so these guys are the last thing I wanted to show you guys. Now, what do you do with all the artwork that you finished? And it's cured and dry, and now it's just sitting in a pile in the corner of your studio, because I am guilty of that and having just a massive quantity of art sitting around everywhere. So this is a really nice way of storing that. These are the Eternity clamshell boxes. They come in all of these sizes. So even if you work really, really big, I'm gonna regret this. These aren't.
They're not any size.
They're not. They're not lightweight. They're kind of heavy duty. This right here is a 24 by 32, and it is the largest size that we offer, and it is heavy, heavy, heavy duty. So that's honestly a really nice way. I'm gonna mess up the stack. I'm sorry. It's a really nice way of getting your artwork stored. So these will actually. This is the 8.5 by 11. So that I'm holding right here. If you open it up, normally they do come with a couple packets of silica gel. Whether or not you want to throw these away, you can. I actually like to keep them in there just to kind of make sure that my artwork stays dry, because it sucks up any of that moisture. But it's just a little clamshell box. So it's hinged on the one side, And the really awesome thing is that this is archival. They made sure that this was acid free, and this is not going to damage any of your artwork. So I know this comes in all of these sizes, and I can tell you what they are, but if you go to the website and look at the teacher's cart, they're all listed. So do we have any questions on storing your art supplies?
What would you say about storing either the Space Rover with finished artwork or the Eternity boxes with finished artwork in them in a garage?
Putting your artwork inside of an Eternity box is a good start, just because this will kind of keep all your artwork more protected from the elements like dust and, you know, debris. And I don't think humidity would really be much of a thing with this, because I don't think this is going to protect too much from humidity. As long as you keep those silica gel packets in there, it's going to help a little bit, but if you're in a very, very humid area, that's still not going to stop it. Especially the Space Rover for sure isn't going to stop anything as far as dust or humidity. As long as your work is in a kind of a more controlled garage, like if it has a little bit more of a controlled environment, like in my mind, because garages to me is like there's a lawnmower, there's tools, the car is in there, and you pull the car in and then there's exhaust and it's dirty and a lot of spiders. And in my mind, I don't want my artwork in that environment. That is not ideal for storing your work, just because your work is going to probably get some damage over time. You absolutely can store your artwork on the Space Rover, your finished artwork. I would just say, oh, this is the other thing that I almost forgot to show you. And I tucked it away in here, like a secret. This right here is acid-free tissue. It also comes in a larger, I think 30 by 40 sheet, in case you need that. But this right here is what I would put between your artwork. And I opened the one side because I didn't want tissue kind of falling around everywhere, but it's just a little piece of tissue just to kind of protect one surface from the other. That way, whatever artwork that you have isn't going to be stuck to the canvas that it's touching. And this is, again, acid-free, so it is archival, and it will not damage your artwork. Questions?
Can you store the Eternity boxes vertically?
You absolutely can. Just be aware that whatever's in there is going to tip. So as long as it's not something that will be sliding around or going too crazy, yeah, absolutely, you can store them this way. They even stand up on their own.
The acid-free tissue, does that work with oil paintings, acrylic paintings, soft pastel? Is there any specific medium that it's good for?
I believe that it works with everything. Now, here's the thing. I haven't actually tested this specific brand on my oil pastels or acrylics. So the one thing that does make me slightly nervous with putting tissue on my artwork is that, especially oils, if it's not cured, you do run the risk of this kind of sticking to your artwork. So I usually like to do this for long-term storage. And that includes like my acrylics when they're varnished. So I will keep my acrylic paintings on my drying rack in my studio until they're fully cured, and then I'll varnish them, put them back on the drying rack, and then if I need to store them long-term, I'll put them in an Eternity box with some tissue on it at that point. Because even if I do run the risk of having this attached to my artwork, it should have cured the varnish layer long enough. That way this shouldn't stick to it, but if it does, I can remove that varnish layer and still save my artwork and not have an issue, because I can revarnish it at that point. Oils is a little bit trickier because you do have to kind of wait for it to cure, for it to be varnished, but again, that's why I have that drying rack in my office, because I need all of the storage I can get. And I used to live in New York, and if you are a New Yorker, you know you go up, not out. So I will utilize all of my wall space and put all the drying racks up that way, which is really awesome. Yes.
I've got a few questions.
Okay.
Number one,
Shoot.
what's the difference between unbuffered or buffered tissue paper?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Maybe find out and put it in the comments later?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Cause I do know that this is unbuffered tissue paper, but I don't want to give you the wrong answer. So I will make sure to find that out, and I will answer you in the comments.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a human. I don't know everything, but I do try
Question
to
number
give you the
two.
rest.
Is do you place the canvas back to back or face to back when you put it in the Space Rover?
Normally,
Or
I
anywhere.
put front to front, back to back. I kind of alternate them that way. So I like my stretcher bars touching, and if I have to have the surface of a canvas touching, I usually do like it to be touching another surface. Usually because the stretcher bars, the way that they're designed is that usually would only touch around the edge at the very most. So that would be the only thing that would be touching another canvas that way. Any other questions? I feel like we've like flown through this, and I don't know if
Mary Ann
How much
is
time do we
wondering
have?
how you would store charcoal drawings.
charcoal drawings. Charcoal drawings are one of those things that I would spray fix and then put inside of an eternity box with a tissue paper. I would not store it up like that. I would make sure to keep it flat like this. Just because if you were to tilt it, you do run the risk of that kind of sliding around, and charcoal is just one of those mediums that it just will float off into nothingness if you don't fix it and if you have it slide around on things. So I would actually put it in one of these eternity boxes.
Going back to brushes.
Yes.
Is it okay to store fully dry brushes upright, or do you always want to store flat long term?
I think I always heard that you need to store them flat long term. Just because even if they feel touch dry, there might be some residual moisture inside the middle of that brush. And if you were to flip them, you could run the risk of it kind of dripping down into the ferrule. Or even if it, like say you use oil paints, the solvents, things like that can kind of drip down and kind of, you ever have a brush that kind of starts getting loose on you, and then the more you use it, the looser it gets, is because you're detaching the adhesive inside the ferrule from the actual handle, and that would happen to make it worse that way. So Katie, what's your opinion on storing it long term flat if it's fully dry? I'm gonna call in a Katie.
Storing what long-term flat?
Brushes. If they are fully 100%
If they're
cured.
fully 100% dry, it depends on if they're
Like, yes, right?
I
So like
know.
oils, that solvent, I just never is gonna be
And
like
like-
fully cured.
Right,
Like
acrylics and watercolors I think are a little bit different. It also depends on how good you are to your brushes. If you've gotten stuff way up in the ferrule, how good you clean them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's safer to hang them.
yeah, I would
But-
say just long term.
We store ours flat.
You can, if you really want to store yours upright, I'm not going to say that you're wrong.
Right.
That is your studio. You are going to work the way that you need to work best for you. So if you do store them upright, just know that that could damage your brushes long term.
Gravity is a thing.
Yes. Gravity will pull any of the solvents and things that you have left over in that brush down into your ferrule, and that can damage it. So, thank you, Katie. Any other questions? I feel like
You speed racer through that one.
I did. I feel like we have a lot of time left. Jeez. I don't know. I feel like I'm leaving you guys like hanging. Like I don't
Not
know.
bad.
I don't know if I need to like.
Can you do me a favor? Can you say hi, Lori?
Hi, Lori.
That's my mother-in-law.
Aw.
She discovered you last night. And loved you.
Thank you so much for watching, Lori. Appreciate it. Well, listen, guys. That is Artist Storage Organization. I flew through this. So if you guys have any other questions, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, make sure to put them in the comments below, and I will try to make sure to come back and answer any of the things that I did not know, especially the unbuffered question. I am not sure about that. That is a great thing. Oh, do we have questions?
We do have another question.
Okay, we have questions. Okay.
Should you roll an oil painting up?
Okay. Rolling an oil painting. Is it fully cured? Has it been varnished? If it's been varnished, it depends on what you varnished it with. Because rolling an oil painting up when it's not fully cured, you're going to destroy your painting. It's going to stick to the back of the canvas, and that's not great. Rolling your painting up when it's fully cured and not varnished, you have still some of that residual oils left over that actually might destroy the fibers of the oil painting canvas, because I don't think the back of it's going to be really coated, and they're not protected from the oils that you are now touching it to. Now, even if you do varnish it and seal in those oils, things like Damar varnish is really brittle. So if you roll it, it's going to crack. And then you're just going to unroll it and cry a little bit, which is not good. So I would say...
Depends on how thick your painting is.
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of canvas
If you're
it is,
impasto...
depends on how long you're storing it around it.
Exactly.
Roll.
If you're an impasto painter, no. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Your painting is going to get destroyed, and it's not going to be good. If you paint really, really thin and really fine glazes... I don't want to say there is an end-all be-all, absolutely not, but I would say please don't do that. But if you're just really got the gusto to roll up your oil paintings, test it out. It's just one of those things that, depending on how you paint as an artist, it could work and it also could damage it really quickly. It could also damage it long term. So like Katie was saying, is if it's a short-term surge, like say I'm going to roll up a painting, fly to New York, restretch it, and then sell it to somebody in a gallery, totally fine. Because it's only rolled up for the length of a flight and maybe an extra day or so. That's not a big deal. If it's rolled up and stored for 10 years, that might be bad. That's where you run the risk of it just being destroyed, which is not good.
How would you store watercolor paintings? I'm assuming on sheets of watercolor as opposed to still being in the block.
Yes. Well, unless it's on an egg. If you have watercolors on eggs, like I do, make sure you watch a couple episodes ago when I painted a watercolor inside of an eggshell. Literally an eggshell, I painted a watercolor. So if you are weird like me and you do that, that's a totally unique and weird little unicorn of a problem. I'm going to have to address that as I go. But if you are working on watercolor paper and it is flat and it's not in a block and it is a sheet, or even if it is in a block and you remove that sheet from the block and then you need to, store it later on, eternity boxes. These are actually how we store them here. I have mounds of watercolors everywhere. And I put tissue in between each one so that way they will be protected from the other one. But yeah, keep them in an eternity box, which is archival, and then also make sure that it's not in a humid environment. So don't put it in your bathroom where you take really hot showers and it turns into a sauna, because that's going to possibly cause mold, and it's also going to maybe, depending on how much humidity you put in the box, move your pigments around, which is not good. So, any other questions? I think we're good. All right, guys, I appreciate you so much for watching, even though this was a quick little episode. If you have any questions on storage, or if you want to know, hey, this is the problem I have, feel free to absolutely put the questions and comments in the chats below. I will reach back out and get you those answers, especially, again, the unbuffered tissue paper. I'm going to look that up. But if you like this, make sure you hit the like button and share it with your friends, because the more art knowledge we get out there to everybody, the better our archival artwork will be. But if you also are on social media, you can go to the Jerry's Life Facebook group. which is literally called Jerry's Live Facebook group, in order to join, because it is a huge community of like 6,000. I think we're over 6,000 people now. It's all artists. We all try to get together and make posts about our artwork and questions we have, whether or not you have want to know, hey, this is what I'm working on and I'm not quite sure about the angle of this thing, or I'm not quite sure about the palette that I'm using, or I have been really wanting to get into oil paintings, but I'm not quite sure on what to get, who likes what oils. All of that is welcome questions and, you know, interactions in the group. We all try to promote each other and share our artwork, but in order to get into that group, you have to answer one question. You have to answer that one question. If not, you are deemed a robot, and I am not allowed to let you in. I'm sorry. One day I will have robots, though. But otherwise, you absolutely can also reach out to me. Katie's shaking her head. Reach out to me on my own personal Facebook page, which is Emmy, host of Jerry's Live. And if you're on Instagram, you can always tag Jerry's Artarama, or my own personal Instagram page, which is misscakes.art, where you can see me do all the shenanigans for all the art stuffs that I do here, and some behind the scenes stuff, which is really fun. So make sure you join me next week, though. I'm going over traveling artist studio organizations, so kind of like this, but on the go. So make sure you join in and bring all your questions. Thanks for joining. Bye.